Hey guys, EBPMAN here. Now if you've been considering a smart robot to clean your home, we're talking about those robots that not only vacuum but mop your floor. Well, you're going to want to watch this video because we're going to talk about two of the smartest robots on the market today. These are robots that we've been testing for weeks, months. Well, I wouldn't even call them testing because we use them every single day. Today we're going to look at the Roborock S7 MaxV and the Ecovac X1 Omni. Both of these are the smartest robots in the market that have vacuum and mopping capabilities, and they do it both at the same time. We're going to take a look at the features, but we're not going to go spec by spec, right? Because really that's not what I wanted to do. We're going to compare the highlights or the differences between these two robots, and then I'm going to help you with your buying decision. Which one is the right one for you? Let's get right to it. Now, both of these robots right out of the gate have a lot of similarities, as you can see here. Both of them are going to be able to vacuum and mop at the same time. Now, one of the things that you'll find that's unique about these is that they go about it in a different way. Now, even though the vacuum process is going to be the same, what you'll find is that the mopping process is a little bit different. You have one that uses a vibrating pad that just vibrates, right? And then the other one that has scrubbers that go around and scrub. Right? So the S7 Max from Roborock uses that vibration mop, and then the X1 Omni actually uses these scrubbers to actually clean your floor. And what the cool thing about this is that you basically have this vacuum and mopping process happening at the same time. Now let me tell you about my home and my setup. I have 4 Pomeranians that are strolling throughout the whole house with their treats, with their dog food. They pick it up, they drop it wherever they'd like. Occasionally they do have mistakes around the house, right? Let's face it, they're potty trained where they go outside. And we also have a little wee-wee pad that we call where they do their business if they can't go outside. But accidents do happen. So I need robots that are smart, that are not going to spread the poo, right? And they're going to clean the areas that I need and then also avoid the ones that we don't. So both of these robots do a great job, but there is some differences that I'm going to highlight in a couple seconds. So again, both of these will vacuum. Both of these will mop at the same time. Now, another common thing that both of these have is self-emptying stations. And I love this because I'm telling you, we've reviewed dozens and dozens of robots. And most of the robots that I get go from review, use it for a couple of weeks, and then they go in a box. Because I really don't like having to empty these things out and doing all the maintenance with them. So having a self-emptying station makes a huge difference when it comes to my use. The other thing that they have is water refill stations. And that's the other big thing, because I also have had robots that actually have tanks that you refill, but these self-fill. So basically they have a dirty water container and a clean water container, and you fill it up with clean water, and then as it's cleaning your floor, it basically self-renews the water, right? But then it takes the dirty part of the mops or the pads, cleans them, and then automatically removes that dirt and then puts it in a dirty water container. I'm telling you, it changes the way you clean your home. It makes it a lot more convenient, and it's something that I run every single day. And you're going to see what my floors look like because I have hardwood floors and I also have tile. And my hardwood floors look spotless, streak-free. And then also my tile is also super, super clean. And if you walk barefooted on your tile, I'm telling you, you can tell the difference between a clean floor and a dirty floor. Ours are clean, even with 4 dogs. Now, both of these are going to have debris storage, right? So you don't have to change the actual receptacle when it comes to the dust or the dirt that picks up. 7 weeks on one, 60 days on the other. But what you're looking at is around a little bit over 40 days when you look at the S7 Max, and then around 60 days when it comes to the X1 Omni, right? So they have a lot of storage capacity when it comes to picking up debris. Now, the other thing I wanted to highlight is the suction power. How much suction can it pull? So what we're looking at is around 5,100 PA suction power on the S7 Max, and then what you're looking at is 5,000 PA suction in the X1 Omni. Not a lot of difference, especially in my situation, so I would give them both. Even though one is spec'd a little bit higher than the other, I give them from an experience perspective. My experience is positive in both. Now, the clean water tank. You basically have a smaller clean water tank on the S7 Max. You actually have a 4-liter clean water tank on the X1 Omni. But what I've noticed is that the S7 Max tends to be a little bit more efficient with the water. So the actual X1 Omni uses a lot more. And that's just because of the way it cleans. So one of them has the rotating brushes that takes more water to clean, and the other one uses the actual mat that vibrates as it's going through its cleaning cycle. So I find that I don't find myself replacing the water tanks as often as you would think, even though the tank is a little bit smaller on the S7 Max. So don't let the size of the tank deceive you. Now, one of the things that's super important for me, if you've ever used a mopping robot, having a pad that is clean, right, smell-free is really, really important. Because if not, when these robots go out and they start cleaning your floor, if it smells or stinks, it's basically spreading the smell and the stink, right? So you want to make sure it's clean. So the neat thing about both of these is that they auto-clean. And what auto-cleaning means is it goes in and it actually cleans the mop by scrubbing it. So literally, when it goes back into the docking station, for example, the S7 Max has this brush that goes back and forth, and cleans the pad. No smell, and the pad looks like it's new. Now, on the X1 Omni, you basically have rotating mop heads that are going like this, and it basically is on a when it goes into the station, it basically rinses it, and then as it's rotating, it basically cleans off the actual mop heads themselves. But one thing that it does that is different from the S7 Max is that it has an auto hot dry system that dries out the pad. So you're not going to run into, having the pad wet. Now, how much does that make a difference between the two when it comes to smell? I'll tell you, I've never had the S7 Max come out, or as I've tested it, smelly at all. It's always clean, and it's never, I would say, over moist when I take it out the next morning when it goes to clean. So, but that's just one thing I wanted to highlight when you look at both of these. One does a hot dry, and the other one doesn't. Now, where things kind of change with both of these, and this is where you're going to see the different robots having different experiences, is that you basically have this AI technology that has both of these robots navigate. And you're going to see in our tests, actually a cup test, and you're going to see how well they navigate. Both of these claim to have different AI that's going to basically identify cables, shoes, pets, people, right? But also they claim to basically identify and avoid poop, which is important for us. Remember, we have the 4 pumps. Now, how well do they do? Well, I can tell you right off the bat that the S7 Max, and you'll see this in my test, we actually printed 3D poop and placed it in our obstacle course. And the S7 Max avoided it, identified it every single time. The X1, not so much. So what that translates to, if you have a home with dogs and there's poop, what's going to happen is you're going to have poop smeared everywhere, and that's something that you should be aware of. Now, we've been testing it quite often in different type scenarios, and we still don't see that the poop detection is quite where it needs to be on the Omni. However, it is definitely there on the Max. And I also found that the S7 Max, the AI and the navigation, just the obstacle avoidance, seems to be a little bit more accurate and able to navigate more items and detect things much faster. Where both of these fail, though, is with cables. If you have thin cables like your iPhone cable, or let's say, for example, your a Samsung cable, one of those thin cables, it doesn't avoid it. It will go over it. I haven't had any cables damaged, but it's one thing that you should be aware of. Now, both of these solutions have also multi-mapping capabilities, and we're going to go into the apps, because the apps is where the thing is. This is where both of these are different, because both of these have video capabilities. In other words, they're not just going through your home and cleaning, they're creating 3D maps, because they have multiple different type of mapping technologies embedded in these robots, because again, these are the smartest ones. So it not only can it see the area, it is mapping the area, and they're creating 3D maps of your home, and in some cases even placing furniture where it sees things. So for example, the S7 Max, as it's going through your home, it will also turn on the flashlight if it cannot see, as it's looking to identify an object, and it will actually label the object. So if it sees shoes, it identifies as shoes. Cables, dog poop, it will identify it as fecal matter. And it will basically show a little icon where it identified it. And if it's having a hard time seeing, basically it turns on a flashlight to see it. Now, also what you find is that it's not bumping against the walls, right? These are advanced robots. Instead of bumping like this, it's gliding against the wall, and it's not really bumping into things because they actually can see. Both of them have that ability where they do some really decent navigation, but as I mentioned, the X1 Omni, and as you'll see this in our test, really didn't do as well in certain scenarios where the actual Roborock did. Now, both of these have multi-mapping capabilities, which means that if you move this from room to room in your house, this is going to allow it to navigate each one of those, and you can select a different room. Now, I have these robots operating on two different floors, but dealing with the same type of materials, hardwood floor and tile in both scenarios. Now, the big difference, though, within the two really comes into the app. The app does allow you to personalize, identify areas that you want it to go, areas where you don't want it to go, and also areas that it should clean often. Like we have our kitchen and our formal living room, or formal, actually it's our formal dining room, cleaned every single day. Now, I also then have my formal, my hallway where we walk every day, and also one of our bathrooms, and then our living room actually cleaned every day as well with the second robot. The big difference that I find between these two is that the app for the Max has a one-click function, and for me that's a big differentiator. It's important because we actually have a specific area that where people, it's a high traffic area, and I like being able to just either push the button in the morning and making it go. Now keep in mind that both of these have schedules, so you could get the schedule to do the same thing in both robots, right? But what I like is if, let's say for example, we just have some people over and there's a lot of traffic coming in, I can just push the button and then it just goes and cleans it because it has that one-click function. And you'll be able to see this when we actually go into the app. Now, one other area where you should be aware of where there's a difference between the Ecovac and then the Roborock is when it comes to carpet detection. While they both have carpet detection, what you'll find is that because of the mop technology that the actual Roborock has, what I find is even though you're not throwing water on the actual rug itself, and I use area carpets as opposed to full carpets because my floors are more hardwood, what I find is that it does lift more, and therefore you don't have a lot of dragging that's going on. So from a carpet detection, I find that the S7 Max does a better job, but both of them have these capabilities. So now let's take a closer look at both of these robots close up so you can see the physical differences and then how they work. We're also going to take a look at the apps, and we're going to go through extensive tests, right? We're going to go through maze tests with cups to see how well it navigates. We're going to have our 3D poop and see who passes, even though I told you which one does best. And hopefully this is going to help you with your buying decision. Alright guys, so let's talk about my test area, my maze. First of all, you see I have hardwood floors that have some solo cups that are going to try to confuse the robot leading into my tile floor. Now, this also has some gym shoes in my obstacle course. We're going to make it really hard. And then I have, what you see here is two 3D printed poops. We want to see if it's going to recognize the poop and if it's going to make it through the poop. So, going from hardwood to tile, gym shoes, flip-flops, and poop, we're going to see how well it's going to do. Now, as you can see here, here comes the robot. The robot seems to be negotiating really well. And keep in mind that this is mopping and it's also sweeping at the same time. So it's mopping and sweeping at the same time. And it's also going from one floor type to the second. And you'll notice how it's negotiating this like really, really well. Now, keep an eye that what we're looking for is the robot not to be touching things. That right there was the actual whisker itself that touched it. It wasn't the robot that bumped it or moved it. We're going to see how it continues to work its way, and you notice that it's really just hovering by the wall, not touching the wall, but the whiskers are doing the job. And it's identified the gym shoes, and what's doing is, as it's seeing the gym shoes, it actually highlights that those are gym shoes. It actually has the AI actually shows this. And then it comes up to the poop, and this is warning, warning, poop, what do I do? And you'll notice how it's kind of avoiding it. It sees that there's two areas of poop there. Now, it's going to come back in a couple seconds, and we'll see that in this test. But identifying the gym shoes, and it's going to work its way around these if it does it well. And you can see how it is. So this is so far been a really successful test because the actual robot itself is not jumping into it. The whiskers, though, you can notice how far out they come, seem to be moving the cups somewhat, but they still haven't moved the shoes that much or at all. So it's going to work its way. This area, notice how it sees the flip-flops, not touching the flip-flops either. And now it's going to go try to do some cleaning on that side. But it's going to come back in a second, So here we went ahead and just cut things up so that we can get to the part where it actually gets to the poop test, because the test is still running. And we want to see, does it actually avoid it? And we wanted to get closer to it. So the cleaning zone that I placed was where the poop is. And what you'll see is right here, here's our dog. It sees our dog. And it is avoiding that poop. This is really good. So in our house, we've been testing this for quite some time. And every now and then the dogs do make mistakes. And we have yet, since having this robot, had a poop incident where the poop actually gets stuck in the rollers, in the wheels. And oh my God, cleaning that out is not a happy thing. The dogs actually think that the poop is a chew toy because they actually go over it or try to play with it. But you can see right here how it has avoided it completely. Now, we're going to start our next test, and this is now with the Ecovac. And the Ecovac, same situation, hardwood floor to tile, has a maze, and we'll see how well it does going through the maze. Now, there's a wall and there's also cups, so a little bit a different dimension. Didn't have gym shoes up here, but we still have 3D printed poop. And we want to see how well it does. I'll tell you that the Ecovac does a good job also when it comes to, I would say, gym shoes and things like that. I didn't have any problem with it. Right now, you'll see that it's also mopping and cleaning at the same time. I'm looking to see if it touches the cups, not the whiskers, but the actual robot. So far, things look good. Oh, now that was not the whisker, that was the actual robot, so it actually touched it. All right, so it's been working around it pretty good. And now it's starting to make its way by the poop area, so it's kind of worked its way around it, and it's cleaning, again, that side right there. And in a couple seconds, we're going to see it actually come back and see how well it does. So far, past one portion of the maze, right? And now the next piece is going to be how well does it do when it tries to get closer to the poop. So we'll see how that does in a couple seconds. All right, so the robot is still doing its job, and oops, it's moving the cups. So I would give this not so much a pass, but somewhat of a small fail. Because it's pushing the cups. There's the poop, and it sees the poop. It's doing a good job. It's working around it, so it hasn't really dragged the poop anywhere, which is what you want. You want it to avoid it at all costs. That looks good. All right, but it has to come back, so there's going to be a need to come back and clean by the other poop, and we'll see what it does there. Now it's touching the poop, so you saw that. It's still the whiskers, so I'm not going to penalize it yet. Working its way around the cup, that was good. But then, uh-oh. Poop. Oh, no! Fail. All right, so, and not only did it fail, but this is what happens with poop. It's actually dragging the poop. That means that the poop is going to get caught underneath the actual robot, and it means it's going to be nasty, nasty, nasty. All right, guys, so now in this part of the test, we're going to see how well the Roborock does dealing with water, or in this case, coffee on the floor, as well as some spilled cereal. Really looking forward to seeing how much it can pick up and how much it actually leaves behind. All right, looks like it saw me, so it's trying to avoid my feet and my tripod. Going back to our coffee stain. All right, so that initial smear that I thought was going to be left behind is taken care of. Taking care of some of the cereal that was left behind. In our case, it's actually dog food that would be left behind. Boy, it did a fantastic job.
Finished cleaning. Returning to the dock.
And now it's returning to the dock. Pretty spectacular, huh? All right, so now in this test, we're gonna see how well the Ecovac does with this spill. So we have some cereal on the ground. And as I mentioned before, in my case, it's probably gonna be dog food rather than cereal. And I'm gonna leave that cabinet door open just to see how well it avoids that. And it looks like it did a great job of picking up the actual cereal. Now we're going to see how the scrubbers do. So we see a little bit of a smear there. All right, let's see how well it does if it comes back and cleans that up. Should be going back. All right, that looks clean too. Not bad. Not bad at all. Now let me share with you kind of like what our setup is in our home and how these two robots are running daily. And I do mean I'm running them daily. This robot is taking care of one floor, and then this robot is taking care of another floor. And they're running, as I mentioned, every single day. We have a multi-level home, and in one level we have our formal I would say living room. We also have where we watch TV, and we have our walkway. And this is what the Roborock takes care of. So where everybody, the high traffic areas where people are coming in and out every single day, you know, getting into the garage, going outside, coming in, that's what Roborock is taking care of. And then the Ecovac is on the kitchen level, and it's taking care of our formal dining room, and then our kitchen eating area, and then our cooking area in our kitchen. Both of them have fluids in them at all times, so it's doing the mopping and the cleaning at the same time. And as you can see, if you look at both of them, I would say the wear is really, really good. And they don't smell, they're clean, and they've been doing a fantastic job when it comes to our floors. If you notice here, this is where it's running, right? So we don't have any dulling of the floor. Sometimes when you're cleaning your floors, they get this film, and we haven't experienced that at all. Now, also keep in mind that I have dogs. So we have 4 dogs that are throughout the house, eating in the kitchen, and then also going throughout the entire house. Now, each of these robots takes a different approach when it comes to how they clean the floor. What you'll notice here on the Roborock is that the Roborock has a pad, and this pad is vibrating. It's actually vibrating and cleaning the floor. And you can see that even though we're running this every day, the pad looks very clean, and it looks in really good condition. The other thing that you'll notice is that the actual debris wheel is fully rubber. There's no bristles. There's no, you know, so you'll see it, and the other one has whiskers that are used to actually lift debris. It does also have a single, I would say, whisker area that whisks in debris that gets caught by this wheel while here. Now, this does have a tank, and before it goes out to clean, it fills up the tank every single time. Now, the difference, though, is that when this robot is parked in the actual docking station, it's facing this way. So this pad is on the outside. So anytime it goes out, it's basically going to come out first, turn around, wash the pad, right, which is great. It's going to clean it up, and then it will go out. What I like about that is that that means that you'll never have a smelly pad. You're also never going to have a pad that's dirty going on your floor. And in the event that the tank doesn't have water and it cannot fill up the recipient or the actual tank that's here, it's just going to do a straight vacuum. It's not going to do any kind of mopping. Now, once the robot comes into the docking station and cleans itself, it does have a tray, and this tray does get filled with water as it's cleaning the actual pad itself. And it has this bristle brush that's going back and forth and cleaning this. This is why the actual pad is so nice and pristine. So we haven't really had to replace it at all. Now, it empties itself out, and it basically deposits all of it, the waste, in this tank here. This is our clean water tank, and then this is where our dust bin goes, so that as it's picking up debris and dust or dirt, it actually puts it in this area here. Now, the Roborock tank is smaller, right? So this is the debris tank. It's smaller than, I would say, the Ecovac, but one of the things that I've noticed is that the amount of water that this unit uses seems to be far less. Over here you have your clean water tank, and we'll bring it into view here. Right? It does have a max line, and we just fill it up and we just put it into place just like this. This we still haven't replaced. We haven't had to change it out because, frankly, since we don't have carpet, we don't collect a lot of dirt. So it's basically just cleaning the floor, taking out the dust, and then working around, kind of any kind of dog food that the dogs may have taken to one of the other floors. Now, the Roborock does not have any external controls, no buttons to press really in the front. All of the controls that you have for the actual robot are found on the robot itself. There's nothing really on the docking station that you have to worry about. You do have a filter that's found here on the side that you'll have to clean, as the robot tells you, because as it gets dirty, it may prevent it from drawing dirty water into the actual dirty receptacle that you see here, this dirty water tank. Now, the Ecovac is using a separate technology, and it looks like I'm missing one of the bristles already. I need to see what happened to that one. But this one right here basically is scrubbing. As opposed to vibrating, these are rotating. And as it rotates, basically it comes back every so often to clean off these pads, rinse them out. And there are some tanks inside that you'll see in a couple seconds. The technology is very similar, but what I'll find is different here is that you do have bristles, and you notice how you have kind of the fuzz that you get from the floor and also from the pets, and then you have the rubberized sweepers where the Roborock only has the sweepers. Now, just to prove how much we use the robot, I purposely left everything as is. I didn't want to clean anything up just so that you can see the debris that we have in here. So what happens is, as the robot comes in, you basically have these stationary areas here that the rotating brushes rotate on to deposit any kind of debris in this area. This also does feature heating, so that the actual pads themselves, once they're cleaned, they actually get heat dried. Now, the Ecovac does have a built-in, I would say, assistant, right? So check this out. Okay, Eco.
I'm here.
What's your status?
I'm on standby.
Okay. So you'll be able to start washing just by speaking to it, and that's a pretty cool feature. The Ecovac also has, now the Ecovac Storage, now the Ecovac has both its dirty water bin as well as its dust receptacle and clear water kind of tucked away into this actual case. You'll also notice that now the Ecovac does take a different approach to its containers. The dirty water, the clean water is in this area here, as well as some spare. Now, the Ecovac does have its dirty water and clean water bin inside of this container, as well as some spare brushes. What you'll notice here is you also have some controls. So you can use your voice, or you can come up to it, press the button, and it'll start playing, or in this case, washing. Now, this is where you have both containers. Now, the containers here, the dirty water and the clean water, are large. They're very large. So you can see this is what our clean water looks like, and then this is what our dirty water looks like. So yeah, it's dirty. So you can see we do use it every day. So what we do is we come here, we change out the water, empty out this guy, fill this guy up as we use the robot every day. Now, here's a close-up of the Roborock inside, and you can see that brush that goes from side to side as it's cleaning things. Now, one big difference also about this robot is that it does have a removable water tank. The Ecovac does not. Now, the next thing we're going to take a look at are the apps for the robot. And this is an area where there is some difference. Some big and some small. First of all, let's take a look at the Roborock app. As soon as you get into the Roborock app, you're going to basically be greeted with the robot. And you could enter the robot and then actually have certain activities executed by tap. And you're going to see that in a second. But what I find the most beneficial is where you see the routines area. And this is a standout feature for me. So what I'm able to do with each one of these features, I'm able to program certain things. So for example, I have center, I have level 1 floor, I have entryway and bath. Now the apps of these robots are somewhat different, but they share some similar features. And I just want to mention that there's some standout features that I really like about the Roborock that make it stand apart. And this is unique to my needs. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So first of all, as soon as you come into the app, you're going to be greeted with the actual status of the robot, the percentage of power, and you're going to be able to enter the actual robot and start doing things, right? For me, what I love about this and what makes this work so well for us is the fact that I have these routines on the bottom. Now, I could use Google, Alexa to actually get these things also running, but what I like doing also is, especially when we have a high traffic day, so if we have my children's friends coming in a lot, what I like to do is basically press the button where it says entry and bath. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to go to that specific zone and only clean that. And I find that this is the area that I clean the most because the door gets open, people walk in, people go to the bathroom, people come out. It's kind of like the area, the main area. And it's really cool because all you have to do is you go into this area and you tap the plus button, and then you're able to define your routines or your areas that you'd like to, and then you add it. And literally all you're doing is using your finger to highlight it just like you would any other zone. Now when you enter this app, what you're going to see is you have your living room kind of map. This is the floor where all of our my robot is primarily used, which is the first level. And as we zoom in here, you're going to notice that it already shows where the robot is charged. And you see it glowing here. And this is something that it detected earlier when it was cleaning, right? So it recognized an obstacle, and these are some cables that are there. So it kind of like avoided it because I have cables that power the sofa that's right here. So here's another sofa, and this was automatically configured by the robot, right? So I didn't have to do this. This is based on what it saw. And then this was the last job that it ran. And remember we talked about our entryway and the bathroom? So it ran through this area and it cleaned things up. And you'll notice that it identified things. And you notice it has an obstacle and it has something here that looks like a shoe. So when I tap on it, it's actually showing that there's a flip-flop there, right? And then over here I have something else. Let's see what this is. Okay, so this is it looks like it's a sandal. One of Nilda's sandals, I think. Yeah, that's one of Nilda's sandals. And then it just works away all this entire area. So this is simple press of a button and it does it. Now it does also have a different way to view things. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to switch this. And what you can do is you can actually view this in 3D. Watch how it works. So now I went ahead and selected the 3D option, and now again it's showing me a different view of the room, right? So this is the unit itself doing it all by itself. And it does know, so right here for example, it's interesting because I actually have a TV right here, and it kind of has the TV stand. And then over here I actually have on the floor right now a rising screen that I'm testing, and notice how I put that object there. I'm going to go over here for a second and you can see what the 3D function looks like. Over here I have the sofas that we were talking about, and they're more 3D like. And as I go, I can turn this around. Let's see, let me turn it around. You'll notice that I have also, this is where the robot comes out of. So again, you have those a couple choices. Now, both of these robots have cameras, right, that you're going to be able to see what's going on. I personally don't use them that much. I like the fact that the cameras are used as part of the AI to be able to identify things around the house. I think that's great. But I personally don't use them as a sentry to see what's going on. But you do have, on the app, you do have the ability to see the actual, I would say, area that you're navigating. And they both have both night vision and also the ability to see things during the day. So that's really nice. Now, a couple other things I'll highlight about the app here is you do have these multiple views. You can set up zones. Pretty much you can see, send it back to get docked. You can change the water level. They're pretty consistent in that area, so we're not going to dive deep into that. Now, when you go into the Ecovac, it's a little bit different. The Ecovac is basically going to allow you to enter smart cleaning, enter the video manager, or click on auto cleaning, right? So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to enter the smart cleaning. The smart cleaning, again, very similar, but it doesn't have the one-click zones that I showed you. You'll be able to come in here and actually see a layout of your area that it cleans. Now, you do have the ability to look at this in 3D, so you can see this in a couple seconds. Now, once you choose your 3D view, again, this is a different part of the room. It does identify certain things. So, for example, this is where the robot is, and then there is a table there. And then what you have is my kitchen, right? My former dining room, kitchen, and living room. So it actually sees pretty far to the next level of the room. So what you can then do is if you'd want, you can add more furniture. If I notice that the Roborock does a little bit more when it comes to adding furniture. This one doesn't add all the furniture that I have in my home. It did identify the table, but it hasn't identified the other table or some of the other fixtures that I have in the house. Now, one standout feature that you see here is the fact that you do have the Eco, which is going to be your AI. So in this area here, you can actually see what you can do with Eco, what you can say. I love the fact that you can actually speak to it and have it start. So where with the Roborock, I actually have to push a button to make it go. Unless I'm using, let's say, for example, Google or Alexa. Here I can actually say, start cleaning, and then it will start cleaning. That's pretty cool. So guys, as you saw, the Roborock S7 MaxV does a fantastic job when it comes to detecting poop. basically passed all our tests when it came to the poop detection. Also, it did a little bit better when it came to the navigation. So if you have a situation like I do where you have 4 dogs and you're trying to make sure that you don't have kind of like any poop accidents, because I'm telling you, I've had them, cleaning the robots out, not a pretty thing, then the Roborock S7 MaxV is going to be for you because it has that extra edge. Now, if you don't have that situation and you're really looking at, let's say, just a robot that there is some pets, but you don't have to worry about poop and that kind of stuff, then definitely the X1 Omni also is a great contender. But that's, for me, the big difference. For me, the poop detection and the AI is just a little bit above the Ecovac X1 Omni. See you in the next video.